And welcome everyone to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight's guest has a very unique background, and some of what she does, I am so grateful to be able to talk to her about because I have heard of it but never had anyone to talk about it with. So I'm going to stop teasing the episode now. And instead, I am going to turn it over to my awesome, amazing guest to give a little bit of her history and what she does. And so I hand it over to the one, the only amazing, multi talented Crystal Sunshine.
Hello, that was a great intro. Thank you. That was fun.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, and I like the intro to the show too. That's pretty clever. I felt the anticipation. That was good. So yeah, I'm Crystal. That is my born name, Crystal Sunshine. I kind of dropped my last name, and so I'm here to talk about all sorts of things. So we can get into the paranormal, we can talk about firewalking. I am a Jill of many trades, but none that seem very real world. So here we go. About a year ago, it was 2 years ago, I was called to the fire. And it was a really beautiful experience. So just a little bit of the background. My mom, who's passed away now, she when I was younger, she is from Arizona originally. So she would firewalk with one of the Hopi nations out there. And I got to watch that as a child and just kind of grew up around um, fire and fire ceremony for some time, but I didn't understand, the significance behind it, right? It was just something cool to watch. And I kind of grew up making fires and I would walk them not knowing what I was doing. It was just, fun. So anyway, she passed away in 99. And one of she was an artist. She was a potter specifically. And her insignia, I guess you'd call it, was refined by fire. And when she passed, I was told by spirit through other people, and then also just personally, that I was to pick up her mantle. And that's come with a lot. So I have just now taken on the name Refined by Fire Ancestral Firewalks, because I got the go ahead. She said it was time. So about a year, it's 2 years ago I was called. I was just it was actually November 11th, which was interesting because it was, if you want to call it like her death anniversary, right? And I had driven down the mountain so I could get cell phone coverage, and I was scrolling on my phone, and I just like happened upon like an advertisement for this lady, and I was like, oh, it sounds really cool. I like what she's doing. And so I started digging, and anything, it led one thing led to another. And um and just to go back just a second, because it was really divine. So that morning when I woke up, I heard this phrase, which I didn't know what it meant until I did know what it meant, but it said a Wyman Court. And I'm like, what in the world is Wyman Court? So that's actually what I went down to go research, is like, what is this Wyman Court, right? Because it was just so loud, and I knew it was spirit telling me something. So anyway, I found out that through my, digging, Wyman Court was actually, my mom, she had like a share in this housing development in Maryland, and the housing development sold, and I had money waiting for me, this from this Wyman Court. And so 10 minutes later, I run across this stuff. And anyway, so it ended up paying for me to get like an official certification in firewalking, so that I would be a certified fire instructor. Which I just thought that was very divine, the way that that all happened. But I ended up, so I went to Ireland and I trained under a lady named Lottie Moore. It was a beautiful, life-changing experience, and it wasn't just the fire walking part of that. It was Ireland, was an activation for me, and a massive activation. And yeah, that's a whole nother aspect of what took place. But I got to learn like the logistics, and how to safely build a fire and safely walk it, and safely walk others through the fire, and just a more in-depth understanding of some different shamanic practices. And I'm just gonna like make a disclaimer. I really don't like labels. Okay. So the only way that I can, describe something is to give it a label so somebody else can understand that. I'm not big on the labels. But anyway, so I walked away from Ireland and came home, and literally like fired up, and started holding my own fire walks. So I've had a couple events that I was able to build these, and have people walk across it. But for me, this is alchemy. This is, truly being refined. Like our entire life. That's my life story, is being refined by the fire. Being, and another label I don't like, but it's kind of like the wounded warrior, right? Like going through and sifting through, and um, molding into the person, my highest, person that I'm supposed to be. And
Being
really
forward.
step into my spiritual gifts here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the fire was just like a catapult for me, and the things that I did not expect. Wow, the things I did not expect to go through, and the intention that you put into those fires. And it can be like a self-empowering, practice, right? Like, I don't know if you've, heard of like Tony Robbins. He was kind of like
Right.
went through the same sort of schooling thought of fire that I was taught through. And it can be like this real motivational thing, and you can take people through, and um, just to show that your body, what you can do and overcome your fears. And that's huge, and that's great. For me, it's a lot deeper than that. It has been a direct line, to the ancestors, and a direct line to manifestation, and for calling in. A lot of that manifestation for me in my personal life was calling in justice, and you know really digging down deep, um, and then also getting in touch with my dragon lineage. I wish that I could just like show some of these videos on here, like the the energy and the spirit that comes through these fires is absolutely phenomenal. I have, you know, hear people talk about like spirit, or fire sprites. The the film that I've taken and the pictures that I've taken, it never ceases to amaze me what comes through the fire. And it's like, what am I actually seeing this? Like, do you people see what I'm seeing? Because it's just absolute magic. I mean, it's really fun to see, and you never really know. And I've seen some dark things come through and then some really beautiful light things. But my favorite thing was a fire that was built actually in Ireland, as I was kind of coming into contact with these dragon energies, which I had never experienced before and I didn't expect to experience it. And you can actually hear it whenever I need comfort. I play this video because I know that that's one of my protectors, and it's I don't know, it's deep and it's primordial, and kind of gives me that feel like not too much can mess with me anymore. I got a dragon, but to walk across the fire, yeah, it's like physics, right? Because it's your body, and you are in a way like it's mind over matter. You are manipulating your thought in order to go cross that fire. But this is something that has been practiced, from the time that we know humanity has existed. And it's just so beautiful to me because it has been practiced in every single indigenous culture that we know about, all across the world. So it's something that I just think that the human aspect of ourselves can all really tap into and be a part of, and know that, like, you know, these people have been doing it for thousands of years, and bringing in their own intention and their own magic to it. It's celebration, it's healing, it's empowerment, it's um, ceremony. And that's the way that I like to go about looking at these fires. Is it's a absolute ceremony, and even if the people that walk it um, don't quite understand it, the feedback that I've had is that it can really, it can kind of change your life. It can change you in a way that, like myself, you did not expect, and send you off into a different direction. Which I think is a good thing. Nope, I told you one of the kitties would come in. I tried. I tried. This is Benji. Um, and
He's so
so
cute.
yeah, I guess yeah, this is Benji. She's an old mama. Um, I don't know. So that's what the fire to me is, and I just want to bring it to whoever, I want the whole world to experience it, because if we can all get on the same page there, man, like the things that are transmuted and that can change through that, the intention that goes into it is really powerful. Um, I have a couple that I'm gonna collaborate with in starting in January. So we have about 3 fires that are planned. My goal is to start holding them here on my property where I live. I just need to, get a little more infrastructure in and make sure that I have water ran down to the place that we can walk. But 'cause we don't want to like burn the forest down. But it is a safe practice as long as you are mindful, and you're not just, it takes a specific kind of wood, and you need it to be, a specific heat, and then you're going down into the coals. So you're not actually like walking through flames, although you can. And I have seen this done. And there's some really extreme stuff going on, which I would love to experience some of the more extreme. And hopefully I will be at the end of next year. That's kind of my plan, is to get some more training with more experienced, kind of well-known walkers and trainers, and kind of get my master certification in that, because then I can take that certification to actually train other people to hold their own fires and walk them. I mean, And that's another thing, labels, like, right? Because we can do whatever we want to do. But in honor of the people that have come before me, I'll do it the way that they say. I'll get the certifications just so that I can be, accredited, I guess, is the thing.
It sounds like you're
But
being mindful to the sacredness of it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that everybody should, and that's just like our modern take on it, I mean, if I was living in a tribe or a village somewhere, obviously that would not be a thing. It would just be a part of my everyday life, but we're here in this day and time, and so just kind of things, the way it works, I guess.
Right,
Um,
and we live in a world
yeah.
where the stupid are running things, and so it's good to have the training because somebody might do something and then like somebody's sent to the hospital and everyone's like, oh no, firewalking's got to be done
Gotta go.
this way
Yeah.
or not legal, and it's like, oh, ruined it for everybody.
Exactly, exactly. And so, like I said, you're not walking through flame, you're actually walking on coals. But, by the time that the fire has gone down to that coal bed, I mean, you could put a car engine there and it would melt it, So you're talking high, high, high degrees of heat that you are placing your feet upon, And I won't say that kisses don't happen. That's what I like to call them. Little fire kisses. Burn is kind of a bad word. But what I've seen is where these kisses can sometimes take place, and it's never extreme. I've never seen like a bad injury, maybe a little blister or something like that. But it's really cool if you can, like tap in with the person or with yourself, and you go and you look at like a reflexology chart of where these kisses are. They're usually where blocks are in our body. So I just think that that's very interesting.
That is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have an interesting question for you,
Sure.
and I'm curious with, is there a season or a temperature outside that's better conducive to the fire walking?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I would say it would be really uncomfortable to do it, I know people that, have, do it in 100 degrees outside. That would be a little uncomfortable because you're adding heat to heat, right? There's preferences. Conducive, I mean, you can hold one in the rain, really, as long as you're protecting the fire as it's building, you're good. Um, if your feet are wet, which, obviously you're going to be barefoot and you're going to be standing there waiting. I would rather your feet not be wet. That would be my biggest, you know. There's just from my own personal experience, you can get a little more kisses that way. And then if your feet are really extremely cold, you might not feel everything like you should. Um, yeah. So no, I mean, my preference is autumn. I think that's perfect. Where it's nice and cool, it's not hot, it's not cold, and you're just out there, and that's my favorite. Yeah. And when it's not raining, that's even better. But it can be done in any environment, as long as you've got water in order to put it out just in case you need to. Yeah.
And so, you talked about, as a little child, fire walking with your mom and just being exposed to it. What kind of impact do you think that made for you growing up that you walked on fire already?
I I don't know. I've never really thought about that. It was just a thing. You just like, we're just, when we're kids, we just kind of take everything in and it is what it is. Um, I thought it was cool, and my big thing was like, I like to make the fires, and I've always been good at building fire and just always kind of had like a pyro tendency, to be honest with you. I love it. But I would make my own fires and then walk in. And I used to walk in the flames because I didn't know any better. So that just shows where it's like the mind over matter, right? Like if you're not focused on the danger of it, and it's, I don't know, your body can do really amazing things. In that training, as an adult, what I've done now, like we did I can do like glass walking, and the fun stuff like board breaking and arrow breaking, where you can put the arrow on your neck. And honestly, that was the most scary thing to me to do. It took a lot of courage for me to step up and allow an arrow to be pushed into my most tender spot on my body, and have that break. Where very well, I can't explain that, but like it really could like impale you and kill you, but it doesn't. That was very empowering, and that's something that eventually I would like to incorporate and kind of, offer to other people to experience as well. That was the most scary. But anyway, so like walking on fire and watching it as a kid, I loved the people that I was around, and it was just a small part of my childhood. But I always took it with me, and it definitely gave me the fire bug. So yeah, that's part
Yeah,
of
and
it.
it's interesting, talking about being forged and everything. I used to watch the show Forged in Fire when it was on, and they would always talk about you can't be in the forge without taking the heat, and you got to be aware and respect the fire. And it's kind
Right.
of funny in a way to hear, them talking about it and you're talking about it the same exact way, doing something
Mm.
completely different. And so it's like interesting how it's the same mindset in two
Yeah.
different fields.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And it is about respect. I mean, so I've if you walk that bed and you don't respect that fire or the heat of that, then I would call it a burn. And I have seen that where people are just like might be cocky and they're not really, I don't know, giving the reverence because it's a living thing. It's not just fire. It's energy, it's living, it's animated, it carries energy, it's transmutating one substance into another and then to another as you go into smoke, so it has its own life, and I believe that it is, it's a life force, just like water for us is, air is, fire is a life force. So yeah, you got to step up with reverence and respect, and if you can't take the heat, definitely don't do it. Yeah, for sure. When you're tending a fire, I mean it's intense. I mean, I sweat gallons. I will just be absolutely drenched. And so it's like really I love it though because it's a purification for me. So it's kind of like going into a sweat lodge, but a little more extreme. And well, I don't know. I've been to sweat lodges that are pretty extreme, but it has that same effect, and I just feel like it's like a detoxification, and you just like sweat it all out, and you take in a lot more, fluids and electrolytes and all that stuff,
Mm.
and the next day I don't know, you just feel different every time, and every fire that I've walked across, massive change has taken place. You know, and not necessarily the next day, but energetically, it starts to rearrange and shift what's happening in my reality. And even in the reality, I mean, I've seen some really beautiful things come from the intention that I've put into those fires. So if I'm building a fire, I like to, have the people that are there. It might be like a simple practice of like writing the intention down and putting it in the wood before we start it. Or, you can verbally say those intentions or just mentally, but, um, like what would be an intention of yours? What would you think if you went through the fire? What would an intention be for you? What do you think?
For me, I would say probably to release some of the residual self doubt that I have about myself, trying to move myself forward. Like an example, like we were talking about before we started, where it's like I feel like, oh yeah, I'm not the right person for this, and it come to me later, and then I'll be like, okay, now I'm ready. Now I can do it. It's like, yeah, some of the things, I've missed out on because I didn't take and do them right away, and others, they come around again. But sometimes it would be nice to not put yourself down and say, hey, nope, I'm not the person you need, when obviously you are, because they're asking you.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a beautiful intention. And I would be very hard pressed to say that you would not see that come to fruition if that was your true intention and you went through the flame. It does bring out different aspects of yourself, and it does build your self confidence. And um, yeah, I think for some people, and maybe for everybody, going into it with the right mindset, it can be like life changing. And the thing is, too, is like the fire itself matches your energy. So I don't know if you've ever seen, like, I haven't seen it in person, but I've watched videos and it's mind blowing where people in a village and they have these fires that they create, and just based on the intention and the chants and things like that that they do around the fire, I mean, you can make that fire, spin and turn, and create like little fire vortexes and stuff, and it'll match that energy. So it's like you can go into it very quiet and with reverence. But what I find is that it's really good to get your energy up really high. And just kind of like get yourself pumped up. Sometimes I just like jump around and, like get my body moving, and because I'm pretty chill most of the time. So it's like, okay, I got to get this up, I got to get my energy up to match those flames, and so that we can meet each other on the same level, if that makes sense.
It does,
Um,
and I'm feeling in the back of my head like I'm hearing the voice of. I'm sure you've been asked this a dozen times, but it's like I'm hearing. Ask this for the people who are watching the show because they're not here right now, and that is it better to walk fast or slow across the fire? And can you actually dance across the fire?
oh yes, oh yes. Fire dancing is that's my favorite. Like, I want to make a big circle and just dance and dance. It's I call it, you get fire drunk. I mean, it's just a feeling that I don't know how you can explain that. But when you go across the fire, you're walking with a purpose. So, what I tell people is, so I'm standing at this end of it, and say that, the other person that's going to greet me is standing at the other end, the end of the fire. You're just walking in a line with a purpose. If you dilly daddle, you're probably going to get kissed. But not always. Some people walk slow and they're just fine, and some people run and they get kissed. So that's where I mean, like, you gotta match the energy of the fire. I mean, that's the best way to do it. You can still get through it and be okay if you don't, because not everybody's gonna understand that, But that's like my role as, um, the fire keeper or the fire tender. There is to understand energetically what that fire is trying to say, and then help the people, get them prepared for it. So I've had very somber walks, and those have been more personal for me, specifically. But yeah, it's I just say walk with a purpose. Like, you're on a trajectory, you're going somewhere. Um,
So
and
I have an
running,
interest.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it. Running, I've seen people get kissed more running. So yeah.
Okay. You mentioned your energy being high to walk on the fire. So if somebody would say just lost someone and's in a sad place and is like, I want to do something to push myself out of my comfort zone and do this, would fire walking be possible, or would you say, hey, I don't think this is the right space for you because your energy is not there?
No, I think the exact opposite. And that again is what I mean about the people that are attending the fire. What are their intentions and what energy are they holding? Because we're creating a container, right, for the other people there. Um, and like I'll just say, like for example, a walk that I did here in Western North Carolina last year was it last year? I might have been this year. I'm sorry. The things are slipping, but um, the we lost a lot of people and a lot of things here in Western North Carolina after Helene, after the storms, and a lot of people were very, very directly impacted, and a lot of life was gone, which I mean, I'll kind of get into it a little bit. The news did not report that accurately, and the numbers of people that went missing and that have never been found are not reported accurately. And anyway, so I held a fire in one of the hard impacted areas. And, my intention for that was to bring healing and to release the grief, right? And I don't know, I probably had like 50 people walk it, maybe somewhere around there. And it was beautiful. And I just saw like, you know, I mean, some people just wept, and that was perfect. That was exactly what that fire called for. And it was in an effort to transmutate the energy there, to help, in some way people just to move forward. And that was directly related to grief. So, yeah, I don't think that there is of any bad scenario other than to show off or to be cocky, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also wondering though, when you get to people who are like so grief stricken, they're like, there's no point, I just want to be with my loved one. If they were to step on the fire and then you notice they're not moving, they're just staying there, would you go and get them off the fire, or would you let them process?
No, I would move them along for sure. And that might be just by like talking them through it. But I don't think that unless, I mean, somebody was like trying to deliberately self-harm, that would be even in your body's ability to allow you to do, because your survival instinct kicks in and it tells you to move. you know and so like one of my disclaimers, and I do have people like sign, you know what am I trying to say, um
The legal
disclaimer.
disclaimer.
Yeah, yeah. I have them sign, and it is specifically put in there that this is not for any purpose of self-harm, period. And so if they were to do that, number one, I wouldn't be liable, but that's telling them that's not the intention of this at all. It's not to self-harm. I hope that nobody gets hurt or, feels any kind of discomfort, that it's just a empowering, experience and a release. So I think your feet would tell you to move. It's hot. I was gonna say, go, go, go. So I don't think that
Mm.
would be an issue. But if it
And I'm
was, I mean, I guess I'd run and like shove somebody off or something. I don't know. I don't know if I actually came across it. I guess that's what I would do. Yeah.
yeah, because we're living in a crazy world now. We got to think about things we never thought about.
This is true. This is true. And that's what also like I like to have a team of tenders with me, you know. Um I have some really beautiful people that have worked with me, and I like to have people on both sides and at both ends, you know, just to kind of, kind of bounce the area and, gauge where people are at and what they're doing, and also the release of like no controlled substances, that kind of thing, because that's putting you in a different altered mindset where you're not able to be fully in touch with your body. I mean, that's the point of it, is to I mean, that's grounding in a very extreme way, that's the point, is to ground yourself um into that space. So, it probably wouldn't be great if you were like eating a bunch of mushrooms and try to go across the fire. That might be a little intense. I mean, I'm not saying that couldn't be done, but you might have like a higher degree of getting injured. And then the big thing is like no alcohol. And that comes back to like physics. I mean, obviously you don't want people intoxicated, but it thins your blood, and you will get kissed. I would say that I would call those burns. Like if you're intoxicated, that's much more likely to happen. Yeah,
Well, and I would imagine if you sweat alcohol, that probably wouldn't mix well with the fire.
this is true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like no intoxication, and not to say that like a cacao ceremony or something that's slightly altering is not welcome or could not happen. And some people choose to do it anyway, I mean, but I'm not liable for that if you do. But I would definitely like I gauge it, because some of these are like at events, and you might have alcohol at that event, there might be drugs at that event, so you just kind of gotta have to gauge and see where people are at, and hope that they are being wise enough, and then say no. I've had to tell this last walk that we did, I did have to tell a couple people no, you are not in the place to go across the fire, because people were like, oh yeah, that's so cool, I'm gonna go do this. I'm like, no, you're gonna get really hurt, like you're not allowed to walk this fire. You have to do that sometimes. But and that's the thing, is like, my perfect world, I would have it in an area with people that are just like all on kind of the same wavelength, but not really, because you've got to meet people where they're at, and hope that it does something for them and changes them in some way, or changes their circumstances in some way, or shows them
Right.
something they've seen before. So those are all risks. Um, but so far I've been
I'm,
lucky. So
yeah. And I'm kind of curious with, because this is ritual, what do you do with the ashes?
so ashes, what I do like to encourage people is, after the fire has died and everything is done, if they would like to take ashes home with them, to do so. And it's really depending on like where you have it, because you have your ritual there. Um, but what do the people that own the land want to do with the ashes? Um, I personally have saved a little bit of ashes from every fire that I've tended or walked myself. Just in you know little pinches here and there. um, I feel like it could be very honored, and I don't know. I like to take a little bit of that ash from the previous fire and put it into the next fire, personally, to carry over the energy from each fire. Like you have like sacred fires and these ancestral fires that that are supposedly never to go out. You have temples where people just keep these fires going for hundreds and hundreds of years. Um, and that's just to keep that energy going. So, yeah, ceremonially for myself, and this is just like where we're forging our own way, we're figuring out what works for us or for me. I like to take those ashes and carry it to each fire if I can.
No, that's really cool. And I want to thank you and backtrack a second, because we talked about tending the fire, needing the water. Because when I did sweats and tended fire, you don't realize, because you're so acclimated to the heat after a while, that you're actually sweating. You don't feel it. And so it is very important to hydrate doing that because you don't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I mean, I personally like what brings me back to the awareness of that, wow, I'm like sweating gallons, is if my eyes aren't protected, it's just like, it burns, and you can't see. So, um, wearing like a little hat's cool, but I always forget to wear a hat. So that's never a thing. So that's my reminder. It's like, oh, okay, I'm like drinking my sweat right now. I need to go drink something. But it's so important. Yes, stay hydrated. Stay hydrated. And people that are tending, I mean, that's what's really important. If you're just walking, you're fine, but building that fire, and each fire that I go in to build, um, you know, I listen to spirit. How am I going to build it? What shape am I putting this in? How many logs am I using? And it's really beautiful how it happens. Like, so it's never like a complete planned thing until I get to that spot and I see it and I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And but still it's not planned, but it's planned, right? So this one that we did, it was really cool. It ended up being um, three separate fires that were then put into a very long coal bed. And just the way that it ended up was that it ended up being 33 feet long, right? And each fire had 333 logs on it. And so it was just really neat, but we didn't know how long it was going to be, right? But that's just what it ended up. And I thought that was really neat. So it's like, kind of fun to play with some of the sacred numbers and shapes and things like that. And you can get really creative. And like I had the like privilege of going and helping to tend a fire with Kevin Axtell, which is kind of a big deal in the fire world. And he was doing a master training for a guy named Dennis Warlock, which I'm also going to be collaborating in January with. And we built a fire temple. Now, who taught the fire temple? And I'm going to butcher his name. All I know, the only part that I can say is Tar because he's Hungarian. So I'm so sorry. Like I wish that I could pronounce his name. I don't know the correct pronunciation, but that is who I'm hoping to go and do training under in at the end of next year. And he goes into very deep Hungarian shamanic practices. And oh, I just thought it was so magical. But anyway, so this was his fire design, and it was an actual temple where, we created well, not walls, but, post of walls, and created like a ceiling to it. And so we got it was only three of us, and it was a fantastic. So we danced in the while it was burning and the flames were everywhere, and like coming down, and it was, I don't know, that was the coolest one that I've ever done. And that one for me moved some mountains and really set some things in a trajectory, which you ask spirit for things and just say that, I want to break through and somewhere in my life. Be careful because you don't really know what that's going to look like. So always ask for grace and ease. I'm learning.
Exactly.
I'm learning. Just like, oh man, I asked for that, but I didn't know that's the way it was going to come about. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, you get to the same destination, I guess. But that one was really, really, that was like, I can't wait to do that one again. That was magical. And I just
It
felt really
sounds like it.
privileged. Yeah, to be able to learn, how to do that in a safe way, but then also like be a part of it. And I would have never imagined that you could do that, you know, build a temple and get to dance in it. And that was, yeah, that's been my very favorite, like hands down the best experience that I've had with the fire. And that was just with the very, very small group of people. It was just three of, or no, I'm sorry, it was four of us total. And or yeah, no, now I think two more people showed up. But either way, three of us built it basically. Um, and that was really cool. I can't wait to do that one again. And I want to really learn some more of his techniques. Because you can get really fun with it and have like fire shows, and I like to have like spinners come out and people that can do like fire performances and just make it like a whole fire celebration. You don't want it, in my opinion, you don't want it to be like fake in the way that this is like a performance, right? But people like to see cool stuff. And so I like to, you know, find people that can collaborate and put together some really fun things. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're doing with these next walks is we're collaborating and we're gonna have spinners and just pyracants and do some fun stuff like that. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm just like picturing you walking across the fire with those batons on fire, spinning,
Yeah, yeah,
twirling.
yeah, yeah. I'm not that talented, but some people are. And this one that we're doing, and I don't know yet. I think that this is the deal. But anyway, we've got a lady that breathes fire. She can do the breathe firing, she can like, and so she's gonna be going across while she's like shooting flames out. It's gonna be epic. I can't wait to see that. Um, I would love to learn koi and do that kind of thing. But like it's kind of one of those things, like a million other things that I want to learn how to do. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. But it's
Yeah.
fun to see other people do it for sure.
And I have an interesting question for you because I'm of the mindset and been taught from the old ways anything that happens in life, the remedy is close by in nature. There's nothing we can't cure through nature. So, are there any flowers or plants that you like to have around or keep on stock that you can either put on the fire for fragrance and like aromatherapy, like they do in
Mm,
sweat lodges, or
that- that's a
like you're
great.
saying, if someone gets kissed, that you can put this on and it'll help it heal faster.
That's such a great, great, great question. Okay. So my other thing that I've been doing now for, 20 plus years is working with native medicinal plants. And so um, I work under the name that I've given it is flower medicine, right? So Appalachian flower medicine. And so yes, there are things. And um I love to build a beautiful fire. Um, and so there, whatever intention you're wanting, I mean, if the goldenrod is growing, and yes, let's put goldenrod on it. Like, let's make it look beautiful and honor it, and what's going to bring like good spirit to that, to that fire. And yeah, you can do, you can put tobacco, sage, cedar is a beautiful, and it crackles and it smells delicious, Um, there's all sorts of things. Now, as far as remedies, if you do get kissed, I'm going to put a plug in here for myself because I make this amazing salve, and I mean, I wish that this was in every single person's household, because I know what it can do, and the healing that it brings. And it's I call it heal all salve, right? So it's a mixture of a bunch of different medicinals that I hand forage here in Western North Carolina and put together. And it has healed every single kiss that I've ever seen. And in that is, a plethora of different herbs. But one is called Heal All, right? Which its name implies, right? So it's going to take that heat out and bring it down. And I put mullein, and I put jewelweed and plantain takes the sting out. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that you could use. But I always keep that readily available for anybody to use if they need it. It's the heal all self, because it just, like, it's amazing for burns, so kisses, whatever. But anyway, yeah, it's good stuff. So yeah, there's things that you could use. Some people, their go-to might be aloe. I mean, I don't know, but I work with what's native and natural to me. So, and the plants that have spoken to me and taught me how to use them and what to use, and so that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious too, as you're talking about the connection to the past and everything. And I know we're like 8 minutes to the hour. And so I don't know if you have time to answer or go into this, but do you feel like the guidance you're given is yourself or from another source or another dimension maybe that's helping you with these fires?
Another really good question. I think that it's all of those things. Um, Everything's connected. Nothing is separate, right? All matter, all energy is all interwoven, and it's all connected, just like mycelium. We're all connected. So we're connected to the past. We're connected to our ancestors. We're connected to our higher selves. We're connected to the energies around us. So it's going to come through in all of those ways. How it presents itself can be different each time, right? Um, and is it an audible outside voice? I wouldn't say that. It's internally, it's just a knowing for me. I just know. And I generally know where it's coming from. Um, but it's all of those things. Uh, We are, it's just through our DNA connected to our ancestors. And so that information is going to be given to us just by listening and by tapping into that, right? The memory is there. It's just waiting to be unlocked. Um, it's not, yeah, it's not separate. It's all the same. And just like in every dimension, they're all, you know, mm, they are all happening simultaneously at the same time, yet different in different times. It's just that whole swirl of creation. It's all just going like this, folding in on itself. Um, so it's information coming from all of those places. Yeah, that's what I think.
And I want to touch on for a second because you were talking about some of the kisses on the feet match on a reflexology chart. So if
Mhm.
somebody was feeling like ill, would it be wise to go across the fire, or or is there certain conditions like certain illnesses? Like, no, as much as it would benefit you, we cannot let you walk the fire.
Um, so I have seen and heard, well, I've heard more that if there is something that is malignant in the body, such as, cancer or a tumor, um, that's going to show up more in blister form, right? So there's more of a chance for a burn there. But there again, that can be a really hidden blessing because somebody might not know, right? And if they really look into it, they might find what's happening. Um, but I mean, paraplegics go across the fire. I mean, it's medicine. It's medicine. So I would say that if somebody was in a very, very low energy state and say that they were, well, we're all actively dying. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're living and dying simultaneously, right?
Right.
But if their life force was extremely low, um, I wouldn't say no because why not? I mean, what's it gonna hurt, right? Um, but I would expect more kisses. Yeah, I would expect more kisses. And if they were aware of that and that's what they chose to do, I do believe that it's medicine. So I would
Mhm.
welcome them to go across. Yeah.
I do have one more question, but I don't want to go over on the time if you're
You're
not
good.
able to.
Yeah, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. Well, you mentioned a paraplegic, and it got me thinking, what about somebody who is on crutches or is in a wheelchair, but they want to go and do a firewalk?
Hmm.
Is it possible that people can hold them up and walk them? Or,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, it is absolutely possible. And in fact, when I did my training, I did well, no, okay, I had just done my training. It was a firewalk that I did right after I did my training, but I was still in Ireland. And there was a beautiful sister who only had one leg, and her other leg was a prosthetic. And of course, you don't want to burn the prosthetic. I mean, those things are like, you know,
Ultra expensive.
thousands and thousands. Yeah, very expensive. So, in order for her to walk across the fire, we helped her across the fire, you know? And the same thing would go for somebody that was in a wheelchair. If their chair, I guess, was outfitted to go through the fire, then fine. But otherwise, we would help. Somebody could just facilitate that and take them across. I've had children walk across the fire. I mean, I don't think that I haven't witnessed it personally, but people that I know have witnessed it. That people that, well, a fella that didn't have either leg, so he just had two incredibly strong working arms, and he went across it on his arms. So anything's possible.
And so I'm trying to picture it. Are the two people that are assisting walking on the fire as well, or are they walking on the cool ground next to the fire?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that would be like when we assisted our friend um that just had one leg, we were walking across the fire with her. But I would say it would be if everybody can be in the same rhythm, the same motion, go across it all together. If you wanted to be super safe, people on both sides, just not to be in the fire. I think that would probably be safer, but saying that you can totally do it where everybody just walks across at the same time. And how wide is your coal bed? Like that might not be possible. But I could tailor it to that. But like if it's, 5 foot wide or whatever, then, you might just have to all be on the coal bed together. And I think that's more powerful and more magical, but, it would be what somebody's comfortable with, and say the people that are helping don't want to cross the fire, well, then they need to walk outside of the fire, obviously. So,
And
but it is possible. Yeah.
and talking about intention, say somebody gets up and goes and doesn't quite make the first step on and says, "No, my mind won't let me do it," and they walk aside of the fire and still get some of the same benefit being by the heat of the fire, or no?
I think so to a certain extent. So I have a lady that could not. I mean, she would go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, and just could not. Her body would not let her go across those. Just wouldn't. Like it's kind of like I can't dive headfirst into water. My body will not let me do it. I've hit my head and it just won't let me do it. Like can't do it. So it was kind of like that. Like she just couldn't do it. And she still got enormous benefit out of it because, like, it's if your intention's there and you really your heart and she really wanted to do it. Poor thing, I felt so bad for her because she just couldn't, but she really wanted to, and she did end up just being near the fire, walking the fire. And I mean, again, everything is connected, right?
Right.
So, like, yeah, you can still get the benefit of it. If I'm thinking of personally, I can tap into the benefit of something and still get the benefit of that even if my hands aren't on it, right? I mean, I wish that I had it down to a science and I could, like, benefit from $1 million I don't have my hands on. That hasn't happened just yet. But yes, everything's connected. So absolutely, you still get the benefit of that. Um, and then at the end of the night, at the end of the fire, when the coals had really just kind of gone down quite a bit, she was able to go across her. But it was a really good experience from her, based off what she said and what she shared. And, like, yeah, bless it. It is what it
Yeah.
is, and you're still gonna get that, and you can kind of feed off the energy of everybody else, and enjoy the experience nonetheless. There is no failure as long as you're trying. Yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
I, I'm curious too with people who are out there these days that may carry like devices in their pockets that say makes them feel better, heal, or are doing stuff with the body's energy, or like or even crystals
Mhm.
as an example.
Yeah.
Could they wear those across the fire, or would you say no? You really need to empty your pockets and go pure.
Um, the only thing that I would tell somebody not to wear across the fire is metal, really. Like I make sure that I take my jewelry off. But I personally always go with something. So I might last one, I might walk with this. Um, it just depends. Because this will be cleansed as I walk through the fire. So I'm going to carry that with me if I have it, just depending on what I have. But yeah, metal is, yeah, I've personally gotten burned by forgetting that I had my necklace on. But I'm also tending, right? So that's a little bit different. But as you're just going through it, you probably don't want your phone in there, just like you wouldn't want it if you were on a boat or something. You don't want it to get broken, but I don't think that there would be, like, yeah, I don't know. It's personal preference. Like, if you don't want it messed up, you might not want to do that. But I think that specific items can really carry the energy, and it's kind of like a good saging. Um, and, like, say I'm holding a space, and holding consecutive walks. Say if I had one every night, for 3, 4 days, whatever. If it's a group of people, personally, and I know it sounds horrible, don't judge, but I won't shower that entire time because I don't want to take the water to cleanse all of that off of me. It's kind of like holding that container. I have a scarf that um, I've worn through many fires and sweat lodges and stuff like that that I still haven't washed. 'Cause I just want it to stay. I just want it to be there. Um, and yeah, so like, what is your intention again? And what have you got? Like, I don't think a phone would be appropriate, but then you might want to like film it. I mean, I don't know, but there, like, it's really hard to film the walks. Like, there's not a lot of really good footage of people walking, just because of the nature of it. Like, it's hard. It's hard to film that kind of stuff. But you can. It's just not. I don't know. I
I'd
haven't
have
seen
a
a whole lot
friend
of
walk
people do
next to me and film.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like if you're doing it yourself, well then you're not really focused on what you're doing, right? Like your
Right.
intention's going into the phone versus what you're doing and being present in that moment. So that's kind of the whole point is to be present in the moment.
And so I'm going to bring out my metaphysical side here for a second. And I'm
Hmm.
curious if you've thought about or may try this. Is you're taking, as you mentioned, ashes from each fire to the next fire.
Hmm.
On a quantum level,
Hmm.
could you not be bringing in ashes from every fire around the world and, like, dimensional, as you said, into the fire as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that's absolutely possible. Um, I mean, I don't know. Yes, why not? Because personally, like what I've experienced and that one specific fire, and this was before it was cold, we were just filming the fire, as it was burning. And what came through, and I've had like an expert break down the audio, like because I'm like, what is this? And please, like, did I do something? Because I also wanted to like prove it to myself and then disprove it and all those things. And it was something outside of that fire that was making the noise, that was not there as far as our physical eyes could see, but the energy was there and it was breathing through that fire and it called in. I mean, I didn't see it with my eyes, I could feel it, and then I heard it. This was upon playback, was a dragon. I mean, hands down, it was just a purring dragon that just breathed over the fire. So, and that was done on very sacred land, right? That had many fires burnt there with many coals from many fires that were put into that fire. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Why not? Yeah.
And so, my next question, kind of maybe a teaser question, is you mentioned in your bio working on Appalachian Flower Medicine Oracle deck. Is
Hmm.
there any progress on that and the book going with it, or any announcement you can make about that?
Oh, I wish that there was like, yes, this is when it's going to be there. But yeah, there is progress, as in I have created each card and I have the book created. Now I just need, I'm creative, right? And I have some ideas for like the images of the cards, but I really want it to be original and I don't, so I've thought of like kind of like doing like a shadow screening of each of these plants, but I want to hand pick each of the plants and do image from each one of the the actual plant that I've handpicked. So once I get the art done and then actually get it printed, right? And it might just be my very own personal deck. But I think that it's a really beautiful, beautiful concept, beautiful deck. And I have, I have too many cards right now. So it's like bringing it down to which number am I going to have in this deck. I think I'm going to end up going with like 22, but capturing each of the plants that I have personally worked with and that have personally taught me and given me information and what energy that they bring, and then translating that. And then, I went a little bit deeper into like looking at what plant aligns with solar energy or with lunar energy, and and what season is this plant in its most potent form, right? So like if it's a pine, right, that's working off of solar, but then it's also in its most potent form in the winter time, the energy that it brings to that. So it's multi-layered, as I think all good oracle decks should be. But it's all come from personal experience and what I've learned from that specific spirit from that plant,
Yeah.
and how it relates to us and the energy that it brings and the wisdom that they bring.
Yeah. I
So
wonder if
coming
you
soon.
have you thought about also tying in the celestial aspect? Like,
Yeah.
because I know some plants react to like moon cycles, and certain stars in certain areas will affect it. And then
Yeah,
also,
what
right,
planet do they correlate to? I have, and I've played with that, and I do have like some that I have that with, but I haven't been able to make it all the way across the board, other than going intuitively into that specifically outside of like researching it, because not every single plant has been researched and not every single plant has been like assigned. You know what I'm saying? So
I do.
intuitively, what do I think? Yeah. So that's I have, and I do have that as a part of the book. So
And
is
what
it
about a
scientifically
fire
backed?
walking deck?
What's that?
I said, what about a fire walking deck?
That's a really cool idea. I've not, and I don't know how that would translate. Like, I don't know how that would translate. It would
That
be, I would
that
go
could
back to
actually
the wood.
be that could be tarot over oracle.
Yeah, it probably would. It would be more in the Tro area. Because, like, for me too, like to go back to the fire. Oh my gosh, the wood is so important. So important. That is the foundation of the fire, right? So, like, what energy that specific wood brings into it. And sometimes just out of necessity, you might have to use a different wood or specific, but so far, the intention that I put into it, that's exactly what's happened. One of the last fires I did was all with cherry wood, and oh, it was absolutely magnificent. Like, so I think that the more sacred the wood is, which all wood is sacred, the more power that would go into that fire. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to really think on that one though. That would be interesting. I do like that. But I'm also like loosely, and I have put quite a few of these cards together, but called Bone and Root. And that is coming into the different animals that I've met, and I call them the root creatures. So some of the energies that live out here with us, and kind of the underbelly, right? Like, so we're going to be talking about centipedes and um yeah, the different things that maybe not be as savory to everybody, but they still have lessons for us, and come in such beautiful forms. And so that's one that I'm also working on. But the Appalachian flower, she's closer to being completed.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So my last question I would ask with, well, actually, I just thought of a question, and this is something totally off topic of what we've been talking about. Is because I have your bio up here on the side, like on a teleprompter
Okay.
sort of screen, so I could reference it if I had a question from it. And I realized I haven't asked you about being a soul referral guide, and I'm like, how have I not asked that yet?
That's okay. We can always have more discussions too. Yeah. So how I would put that is, again, I don't like labels. Okay. Disclaimer, disclaimer. I don't like the labels. But I've worked as a death doula, and an end of life specialist, however you want to say it, helping people through transitions from one plane of existence to another. And in that, a lot has led up to that. I mean, it's my whole life. So it's helping these souls not get stuck here and not be recycled again. And that's come in many shapes and many forms and very individual to the person or the energies that I encounter. Um, the most profound, and this is a whole thing. The most profound, I don't know if I'd say profound, most intense experience um, was actually helping a bunch of children out of the mouth of a or the belly of a beast. And these energies find me sometimes and they call to be moved to different places. And sometimes that is by actually transmutating that within myself, or an outside energy. And I know that sounds very vague, but it is complex and it's really hard to articulate what that looks like, other than going into like the real physical of it. But if I'm working with a person who is going through their life transition into what we call death here, right? How can I help them out of this reincarnation loop? How can I help them not be lost here on this plane anymore and go to back to source? I mean, everybody's got a choice, and if that's what they choose, then it's a matter of working with them to sort out all the things that they need to sort out, and it does come down to spiritual warfare a lot of times for me, and it can be really, really intense. And I've encountered it where the person didn't know that it was happening, and then I've encountered it where the person was aware that it was happening. um, and my mom was my greatest teacher there, because just going through the experience of when she was going through her life transition and her fear, because she saw a lot, she knew a lot, and was to be stuck here. And I mean, like, damned if that's going to happen to anybody else. Not on my watch, if I can help it. So, and I know that, and I truly, truly believe this with every inch of me. Like, this is my last reincarnation here. I'm done being recycled, and if anybody doesn't want to come back, or they don't want to be recycled into a lower vibrational plane, then let's do it. We can do it. They can do it. Yeah.
Very cool. And so the last question I have for you is simply, I say simply, it may not be simple to you. It's, if somebody is
Okay.
coming from a place of fear and wanting to do this, but their fear is getting the better of them, what advice would you give them?
Mm. What is it that you fear? Let's look at that. And what would be the opposite of that fear? And that's what you want to do. And that's what you want to focus on. So if it's a fear of being burned, what's the opposite of not being burned? Not being burned. And let's focus on not being burned.
Yeah. I actually was thinking that for a second. I was like, what is the opposite of not being burned? Wait, not being burned.
Not being burned. So let's focus on that, you know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it would be super individualized as well. But um, you know, are you gonna allow fear to lead? And that's the whole point of it, is to not allow that fear to lead and just have trust that your body will tell you what to do. Your body is going to provide the space for you to do what you need to do. And as far as I know, nobody's died walking the fire. Um, and nobody's been severely injured. And if you do get kissed, it's gonna heal. So that's
Very
kind of
cool.
like, we're gonna take risks, right?
Well, thank you for that. And we have a few minutes left, and so I want to give you that space to promote your work and how people can find you.
Oh Lord. Okay. I don't know if I was prepared. Okay. So where can you find me? You can find me on social media. You know, I'm pretty active on Facebook. That's one of my favorites. I'm, you know, a little older, and so that was my jam back in the day. Kind of stuck with it, but that would be Crystal Sunshine Hensley. You can find me on Instagram, and that's Flower Medicine. Um, you can, you know, email. I do have the website domain. I have not launched it yet, but that would be Flower Medicine or Appalachian Flower Medicine at .com. So that's that. And then I will be launching a YouTube channel very soon, and that's going to be a surprise. We're going to do oracle reads. You know, I delve into a little tarot, and that'll be on there too. But channel messages and just discussion, that sort of thing. And that is refined by fire, spirit alchemy. You've got a dog too.
Two little ones. I think a squirrel
Uh,
walked by.
that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, so that's refined by fire, spirit alchemy. And you know, on all these platforms too. And then I've got Shakana Crossing LLC, or it's just Shakana Crossing End of Life Doula Services. I also have a page dedicated to that. If you are in need of a death doula, if I can't do it, I can hook you up with somebody that can. Um, well, there's some things there, and then also my description, I think, is going to be somewhere in some box somewhere that you've done that has some links and things like that. So I live in Sylva, North Carolina, and that's Western North Carolina. It's a beautiful area. Yeah, so that's how you can get in touch with me. I guess I did it. I guess that was your job. But I would like to invite people to our New Year's fire walk that's going to be held in Steel Badger Farms in Lenore, North Carolina. That's going to be January 10th. I have the events pasted on Facebook. I'll be putting it up on Instagram. And I'll be collaborating with Dennis Warlock and Norlock, I'm sorry. Yeah. And not Warlock, Norlock. And
Little different.
Veronica. Yeah, it is a little different. Maybe that's how I see him, but that's all right. And Veronica Young. Dennis Norlock is a founder of Tiger Tamers, and Veronica Young is founder of Forest Connections. And then it'll be me, Crystal Sunshine with Refined by Fire, Ancestral Firewalks. And that's going to be in January 10th. It's only $75 a person to come and watch some beautiful flow performances and get to walk the fire. So that should be a fun time, and we'll welcome in the new year. And that'll be the intention of that fire, is to welcome in the new year. And
Very cool.
shed
And
away 2025 and yay 2026.
we survived.
Yeah. We survived. Yeah, Lord. It's been a doozy. And going into the year of the horse, the flaming fire horse is what I like to see, and shedding all the skin from the snake, that we've just came out of. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a good year. Yeah.
There is a quick question that just came in if you want to take a second on it. It has to do with
Sure.
your background. Is
Oh,
how
yeah.
significant is the Eye of Horus relate to firewalking?
Ooh. Oh, well, it's a all seer, like, right? And just like fire, it sees everything. Yeah, that's what I would say. And the I've came to me and I don't know, floated in to me one day in a vision, and I had no idea what it was, and it was a massive another stupid label, but I don't know what else to call it, but a download. And it was the beginning of another awakening for me. So when I found this tapestry, I was like, oh, I got to get it. But also, I am in my cabin that is in the middle of being built. So I don't have proper walls yet. So, y'all, I just had to do it to cover some stuff up. Yeah, I'm still putting insulation and walls and flooring and all the things. I'm in it, wood stove and some heaters, and it's functioning. I can live, but it's just not pretty yet. So it's a work in progress.
And if I'm not mistaken, Horus was a protector god too. So
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it's the all-seeing eye. I mean, fire. Golly, how much has fire seen? And every
oh yeah,
home, that it's ever heated, and every food that it's ever cooked, and it's the substance of life. That's what it is. So
yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you for trusting me to be a guest on my show.
yeah, thank you. You're
And
welcome. Thank you for
hopefully,
having me.
hopefully, we'll get you back on to do a few more episodes.
That would be great. I've got lots of things, lots of stories that we could talk about, getting into some paranormal stuff too. That would be fun.
Uh, So keep an eye out. Next season, season 4, you might be seeing her popping up.
That'd be
So,
great.
well, one last thing before I let you go and we go for the night. I just want to say to you, my heart and the heart of my shows, to you, thank you for what you're doing for humanity.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for that. And like so much gratitude just back to it. There is no you're welcome. I am only doing what spirit tells me to do. And that's mother, father, that's creator. And I'm a vessel,
Yeah,
just like a pot. And I'm being
it's seen.
refined by the pot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
seen. So thank you for that. And with that, we are going to say goodnight to everyone.
Good night. Good night.